When I first started writing fiction, someone suggested that I should write in a way that stretches who I am. I've never
Mm.
been a woman, at least not in this life, so I gave it a try, and I discovered that emotions are not gender specific. We all have the exact same emotions. In my experience, the women in my life are more willing to share their emotions and they're more articulate about their emotions. So Lark just became a fun person to write.
We'll talk about this and much more today. Welcome to a Writer's Day podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to a Writer's Day podcast. My name is Ruth Douthit, and I'm an award-winning best-selling author in multiple genres, but right now I'm focusing on suspense. Although I did finish book 3 in my Love and Romance in Italy series. The Streets of Florence is available for pre-order right now, and it releases October 7th. So head over to Amazon and pre-order your book and get all 3 books and enjoy your trip through Italy. I really had a lot of fun writing this series. And head over to my website at artbyruth.com to sign up for my newsletter, and you'll receive a free PDF copy of my novella, The Letter Opener, a mystery thriller story that I think you'll enjoy. And if you like today's podcast episode, please head over to YouTube and subscribe and follow me and leave a comment. I would love to know what you think of today's episode. Okay, enough of that. Let's get started. John DeDakis is visiting with me today. He is an award-winning novelist, writing coach, manuscript editor. He was the former editor of CNN's The Situation Room. Wow. And I really had a great time talking to him about his life as a former White House correspondent and journalist. I think you're really going to find him fascinating as well. So you know the drill. Grab your favorite beverage, a comfortable chair, kick back and relax as we listen to John DeDakis talk about his new book. Hey everyone, welcome back to Writer's Day. I'm so excited to have author John DeDakis with me here today. Welcome.
Thanks, Ruth. It's good to be with you.
Awesome. Well, why don't you start off by telling my listeners about yourself, and then we'll talk about your amazing Lark Chadwick series.
Well, let's see. I'm old. Let's see. I'm from La Crosse, Wisconsin, along the Mississippi River, Wisconsin's west coast. I went into journalism back in the late 60s, had a 45-year career, the last 25 at CNN. The last 7 as one of Wolf Blitzer's editors in the Situation Room in D.C. During my time at CNN, I started writing novels. The first one got published 20 years ago. There are now 6 in print. My protagonist, Lark Chadwick, is a 20-something young woman who starts out just trying to figure out what to do with her life and becomes a White House correspondent. And that was one of the jobs I had when Reagan was president. And in Enemies Domestic, the most recent one, she is White House press secretary.
Mm.
And I'm also a manuscript editor, a writing coach, a writing teacher. And on the side, I play jazz drums.
Oh, nice.
Not well, not well.
But you have that creative outlet for you.
I do, yeah.
Well, so did you always want to be a writer then? Is that why you went into journalism or?
No, actually, I wanted to go. I wanted to become a lawyer. My dad was a
Oh,
lawyer, and he and I were going to go into practice together. And then I was going to use the law as a stepping stone to get into politics. But for the good of the country, I decided to go in a different direction, which was journalism, primarily because of the Vietnam War and
mm,
Watergate. I was, got a little cynical about where the country was going at the time. And so writing really, especially writing fiction, didn't happen until way into the 90s when CNN made me an editor. I had been a writer on some of the news programs, but writing or editing was tedious. It was not creative, and I needed a creative outlet. So I taught myself how to write fiction, but it took 10 years for me to get the first book into print because it took me that long to get the agent that I've got. And that was, I think she was the 39th agent that I queried. So fiction writing was not on the radar at all until much, much later.
Hmm. That is interesting. I hate to do this to you, but I was born in the late 60s, so sorry
Oh,
about
that's all right.
that.
That's quite all right. I'll remember the day you were born. And
The Summer of Love.
yeah, well, the Summer of Love was 67,
That
actually.
was my year. Yep.
Okay, okay. Well,
Well, I find it interesting that so many of my friends who are authors started off as journalism majors. Did you
yeah.
find that that helped prepare you and kind of make fiction writing a little easier?
Absolutely, because
Yeah.
writing in a journalistic form means you have to write tight. You really have to have an economy of words, and every word is necessary or it doesn't belong because you only have so much time in broadcast journalism. You only have so much real estate in print. So you have to be clear and concise.
Yeah, get in, get out.
Yeah, and even if you're writing an 80,000 word novel, every sentence still needs to be efficient.
That's true. But did you find it also helped you, prepare for the editing phase of fiction writing? Kind of
Sure,
thicken
because
your skin a little
it,
bit.
oh yeah, oh man, absolutely. Because you get too close to your story and you're not objective about it anymore. And I've had plenty of conversations with editors and I learned over time that in many cases they were saving me from myself. And then when I became an editor, it 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 was informed a lot by the editors I had. In some cases, don't do it that way, and in others, be more respectful of the approach, the creative approach that the writer is taking. And so it definitely helped to be on the receiving end of editing. And it also, I think, made me a better editor as well.
Yeah. So, in your approach to writing fiction, and then with your experience of being a journalist and dealing with editors, what genre did you start off with, and what made you
Hmm.
choose that genre?
At the beginning, I had no idea what genre was. I I just wanted to write a book. And it wasn't until probably the eighth or ninth or maybe even the 10th draft that I finally had an inkling about what was going on because my agent was pitching publishers and most rejections don't tell you anything. It's just, not a good fit for us. Good
Mm,
luck with your writing. But this publisher said, it's not really literary. It's not a mystery. It's not a romance. I don't know what it is. Therefore, I don't know how to market it. And
mm,
so I went to a book club that met in our neighborhood in Atlanta, and I write as a woman. And so 25 women sat there. They read my novel or the manuscript over the summer and then let me sit in on their critique. And as I listened to them take the book apart, I realized I had three subplots I didn't need. And
mm,
so in the next rewrite, I took those subplots out, and the novel went from a 150,000 word mishmash to a 75,000 word mystery suspense novel. I didn't even
mhm.
know what my genre was.
Oh, that's great. And that must have helped you so much to write the voice of a young woman, to have these women helping critique you, right?
Oh man, there was one line of dialogue where Lark, my protagonist, says, I'm going to jump in the shower and then I'll be right there." And these women go, "We do not jump into the shower. We savor the experience."
That's wonderful. Critique groups do help. Like you said, it takes you out of your writing,
Yep,
forces you to listen to other people's
yep,
take on your writing, whether it's a sentence or an entire chapter.
absolutely.
And because you were a journalist and you had to put your writing out there for the public to read, did that kind of prepare you also, thicken your skin a little bit also, as you imagine readers out there picking up your book? I mean, it makes you so vulnerable, doesn't it?
Oh, vulnerable is a perfect word. Yes, it does, because there's so much of you in it, even if it's
Hmm.
fiction. And so, yeah, I don't know if I have that thick a skin, because, it's your baby out there. And yet, one of the things that amazes me, the criticisms, they don't surprise me that much, although I don't, to be honest, don't get that many. I think people are just polite and they don't bother to, to tell me. But what does amaze me is the feedback I get, the positive reaction I get from people I don't even know. In
Mhm.
fact, there was one reviewer when my third novel, Troubled Water, came out. She said, as soon as I discovered that it was a guy writing as a woman, I couldn't wait to take his book apart. And then she said, by the time I got to page 5, I forgot it was a guy.
Mm.
And I had no idea who this person was, but I love her.
There you go. It
Yeah,
does matter, doesn't it?
it does. Yeah.
Well, I taught middle school and I wrote for middle school, and I had my own classroom library and with my books on the shelf. And I'll never forget the day when I saw one of my students walk across the classroom over to my library, pick up one of my books and start reading it. I was so scared. I thought, oh my
Yeah,
goodness, because middle school kids, if your book stinks, they'll tell you, flat out
exactly. Yeah.
tell you. So
Oh,
I was
man.
so nervous. That was my target audience reading
And
it.
how did it go?
He loved it. And that
Oh,
was such a
nice.
blessing. I thought, oh,
Nice.
thank
Nice.
goodness.
Really, it's a relief.
It is. And as an artist, I thought my skin was thick because I've had my art out there, for years.
Mm,
I've had it critiqued by master artists,
mm.
torn to shreds, right?
Ugh.
But there's nothing scarier than seeing your target audience pick up your book right in
I
front
know.
of you and
I
start
know.
reading it. And
Yes.
whew, that was scary. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Good for you.
So, oh, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Well, to go from journalism to writing fiction and then the television world, how was that transition?
Well, television came actually pretty quickly because I got when I was in the Army, I was still, radio was my first love, my first
Oh,
experience. And so when I
okay.
was in the Army, I was with the American Forces Radio and Television
Hmm.
Network in Frankfurt, Germany. So it wasn't until I got out of the Army that I went into television. And that was very early in my career. So I was around television, early on and for pretty much the rest of my career.
Well, CNN started in what, 79?
1980,
1980.
1980.
Okay, I thought so.
Yeah.
And boy, television has really changed since then.
You, you think?
Television news has really changed a lot since then.
Oh man, don't get me started.
So I find it absolutely fascinating, the life you've led and 45 years of journalism. When you look back over our country alone, everything that's happened in 45 years. I mean, I was young during the Watergate scandal, but I do remember my father watching the news and being so upset by it. And, Woodward and, Bernstein taking investigative journalism to the nth degree after that. Everybody wanted to go in that direction.
There you
Did
go.
all of that influence you?
Oh, absolutely. I was very well, let's see. Nixon was president he became president in 1968, and that was my senior year in high school.
Mm.
And he started the draft in 1969, I think it was, and they had a lottery. And if you had a number below 150, chances are you were getting drafted. And by this time, the Vietnam War was not popular, and my number was 14, so it did not look good. And so the country in 1968 was not the summer of love. The country was tearing itself apart.
Mhm.
You had Martin Luther King assassinated, and right after that, Bobby Kennedy was killed running for president. Um, there was the Kent State massacre when
Mhm.
the National Guard fired on students at Kent State University, killing four. Some of them weren't even protesting, and the country was tearing itself apart. And you think things are polarized now. They were ultra polarized back then.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, the country has been through a lot over the years, and we're going through it again.
And CNN has terrific series on the different decades.
Right.
And we watched the 1960s, that decade show.
Yeah.
Wow, it was mind blowing, absolutely
Hmm.
mind blowing. And when you finish, when it hits 1969, you're so exhausted because of everything that happened after
Oh
Kennedy's
man.
assassination. It just seemed
Yep.
like the world was coming to an end. So I highly recommend it, listeners, if you have a chance to see CNN's 1960s series. I'm not sure what streaming is on, but we've recently rewatched it again. It's wonderful.
You might actually even be able to find it on the CNN website.
Well, now let's talk about your Lark Chadwick mystery series. Would you consider these to be political thrillers?
Not all of them. I mean, there are elements of politics in all of them. They started out when I wrote Fast Track, and you don't have to read them in order, although a lot of people like to do that. There was one guy who read the first, he bought the first one and the last one. He said, "I wanted to see if you got any better," and he said they actually are both, really good, which is, again, a
Nice.
real kick. Yeah. So, the the first one, Lark, is she's a college dropout, and a trauma happened, and she's trying to get her life together and figure out what to do, and she solves the mystery of the car accident that orphaned her, and that leads her into journalism. And of course, the very first story that she's covering is political,
Mm.
and so, there are going to be elements of it all the way through. The first one is more of a cozy mystery, and then things kind of get more raw as her life, is buffeted by all kinds of issues and problems. But by the time, let's see, I would say Fake, which is the fifth novel, and then Enemies Domestic after that, the most recent one. Both of those are very political. I wrote Fake when Trump was elected because I was troubled that he was calling journalists enemies of the American people. It's just not true. And so I wanted to put Lark in a situation where you, the reader, know that what's being told about her as national news is not true. And I wanted to show that lies have consequences. And then in Enemies Domestic, she's pregnant and she's White House press secretary at this point. Abortion is a crime. She's ambivalent about becoming a single mom. And the first question she's asked in the daily briefing on her first day on the job comes from a reporter with an agenda who asks, "Are you or are you not planning to abort your unborn child?" And that just, thrusts her unwillingly into the middle of this political hotbed of polarization that's really toxic. And then a dictator becomes president. It could never happen, but yeah, you think it's political? You bet it is.
So, what was your inspiration then to write this series based on a young woman rather than, a military guy or a male politician or something?
That's a really good question. And I have to admit, there was nothing calculated about it. When I first started writing fiction, someone suggested that I should write in a way that stretches who I am.
Mm.
Never been a woman, at least not in this life. So I gave it a try, and I discovered that emotions are not gender specific. We all have the exact same emotions. In my experience, the women in my life are more willing to share their emotions and they're more articulate about their emotions. So Lark just became a fun person to write.
Oh, interesting. And then, when do these stories take place? Are they in the future or?
No, they're in pretty much the present day
Oh,
or the
okay.
recent present. Of course, we've they've been in print since 2005, but Lark has only aged about 5 years.
Oh,
Exactly. It started, well, I mean, we reissued I'm sorry, Fast Track, and I think that we were able to, make cell phones a little more routine in that one.
that's an interesting thing for writers. Did you find that to be a challenge that knowing that you started your series so long ago and technology has just, taken off between then?
Yeah,
Was
yeah.
that a challenge for you to think, oh, now I might have to go back and change these?
So far, not really. I think that I've been able to pretty much stay current without having to revise, because I think it's also understood, you look at the copyright and you go, well, this is the way it was back then. And so I haven't gotten any pushback from people who are going, well, geez, you're really out of date, dude. I'm not getting any of that, but I definitely, especially with technology changing as much as it is, I've had to definitely stay active. So, in Enemies Domestic, there's some artificial intelligence gone, being used
Mhm.
nefariously.
Oh, I like that. And it'll be interesting in 10 years to go back and read your story and see how far off you were, or if
Yeah,
AI has taken over the world.
stay tuned. Yeah, exactly.
So your story, Enemies Domestic, handles some rather hot button, topics
Right.
that can cause some heated debate.
Yep.
And were you concerned that maybe some of your readers would be, alienated from the story or?
Well, there's always a risk, but I mean, I wasn't writing a polemic, and I made sure that people on all sides of the abortion issue were beta readers for me, because my goal was to try to present, if was to try to present the issue in a fair way, so that no matter where you are on the abortion issue, you're going to feel that your side, your arguments are fairly represented. So that's what I was shooting for. I think that happened. You can't please everybody, but it's a difficult issue, and I think it needed to be dealt with head on. And no one is going to be totally satisfied, because they're going to see other points of view represented in a human kind of way as well. I'm not really taking a stand. Lark has her opinions, but she's just one character.
Hmm. That's interesting. That's good that you provided a chance for all readers from all walks of life to give it a shot to listen, to read and to listen, and to educate themselves a little bit about both sides of the issue. A very, a strongly debated issue.
You
But
think?
that's good.
Yeah,
And I think that other authors have done the same thing when you pick up a book, this,
right,
especially with some political, threads running through it.
right.
You might have a protagonist who is totally against you, and but you're still fascinated by the story and
Yes.
the story arc and the conflict that happens. And one thing I find challenging in writing, as you imagine your readers, is you want them to identify with some things that your protagonist is going through, right?
Right, exactly. And the one thing I teach in my writing classes is that when you're creating your villain, you don't want to make your villain perfectly evil. Think of the villains in your own life. Chances are they put their best foot forward when you first met them. You may even have married them. So you want to give your villain redeeming qualities. And some of the people who've taken my classes, based on some of the writing exercises I give, tell me that they've gained more empathy for their villain based on the exercises that allow them to plumb the psychological depths of the bad guy.
That's important because even in the FBI, they have those behavioral specialists who have over the years gone to interview serial killers, right? Because they
Exactly.
want to find out what motivated them, what started them on this journey. And
Exactly.
9 out of 10 times, it's a childhood trauma that occurred.
Yes. Oh, I'm so glad you pointed that out, because I, I think that one hunch I have, and it's not backed up by anything other than just my observations of the world, is that when you think about it, I can't think of an exception to the rule that whenever you've got a mass shooter, it's a guy. And I think the reason is that women, and I don't want to overgeneralize, but I think
Mhm.
that in general, women are much better at handling their emotions. Crying is okay. Crying is a great emotional safety valve. And guys tend to keep it bottled up. And that it doesn't really make the pain go away. It just is corrosive. So that by the time they've reached a certain point, the tears have become bullets.
Mm, that's interesting. And yes, I mean, when I come up with how I'm going to create my villain, I do go back and think about what was his dark moment in his life that started him on this journey.
Mm-hmm.
And my son is trying to become, draft his first story. He wants to he's thinking about doing fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And he's creating his villain now, who's a woman
Mm-hmm.
and wants to be a serial killer. And I ask him why, why? What happened in her past that makes her want to go
Yeah.
around killing people?
Oh my.
And you have to be able to answer that question. Why?
That's
What
right.
made them do it? So in my research for my serial killer villains, it's typically, it sounds cliche, but if you look at the research, it's spot on. Either an overbearing mother
Mm-hmm.
was very, very cruel and abusive,
Mm-hmm.
a father who abandoned them,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
or a mother who lied. That happened with Ted Bundy. His mother lied about his
Oh.
father,
Mm-hmm.
who really was a stepfather.
Hmm.
And these tend to make them despise women,
Hmm.
but they know they can't kill their mom, so they're going to go kill all these women
Hmm.
and, act out that anger toward
Mm-hmm.
their mother, although Ed
Mm-hmm.
Kemper really did kill his mother. So
Sure.
yeah, you have a
Oh
few
man.
who actually did carry it out and kill their mothers, but I'd say 80% of them were from broken homes. The
Yeah.
fathers had left, and the mothers were very bitter and angry toward men
Mm-hmm.
and took it out on their sons. So,
Oh man. And mental illness is something I deal with in Enemies Domestic I mean, it's probably dealt with in a couple of the other books, but this one is dealt with head on.
mm,
And I think that we are in a crisis in this country when it comes to mental health.
yes.
And so I really try to deal with that in a constructive way too.
So, what is it that you want readers to take away from your book, Enemies Domestic?
A desire to read the next one. I don't know. I think I'd like them to be thinking on a number of different levels.
Mm,
Um, Probably the biggest takeaway, and I think it's especially relevant in this day and age, is that we are now at a point where we can't even agree on the facts, which means, and I'm an optimist, but I'm a pessimist when it comes to whether we can find common ground politically. I don't think we can do that, at least for the foreseeable future. But I do believe, and maybe this is something that a person can take away from the novel, is that I do believe it's possible to find common human ground. And if we look at the other person as a human being, a fellow human being, and try to find, as much commonality there, I think that's sowing the seeds for our redemption in terms of our society for sure.
I love that. And so, can folks get a hold of you on your website, johndedakis.com?
Yes, ma'am. John, D as in dog E, D as in dog A, Kis as in Sam,
Wonderful.
johndedakis.com. And it's got a way of getting through to me on by email.
And is Enemies Domestic out in the world right now?
It's out in the world as a hard copy, a Kindle, and as an audiobook. All of them are in multiple formats, including audio.
Well, so what's coming next for you?
Well, I'm working on book seven. I've only gotten about six chapters in, and I'm not real happy with it. My wife Cindy and I actually wrote Enemies Domestic together.
Oh,
We came up with, when when abortion was overturned, Roe v. Wade was overturned, my wife said, you need to write about this because Lark was pregnant at the time. So it gave me a perfect opportunity to examine that issue in a post-Roe era. And so we had the idea. I went down and wrote it, and every chapter she would read and give me feedback. And that worked. That really did work well. And so we're doing it again for book seven, which the working title is Cradle in the Crosshairs, but it's early yet.
oh, okay. When do you think that would be released?
Oh, a long time ago, for a long time. I, I
Okay.
have I have procrastination nailed, Ruth.
Okay. Well, folks, head over to John's website, johndedakis.com, where you see he has his speaker and workshop tab there. He has all of his books there, upcoming events, and the services that he offers. It's just wonderful. So check out his website today. And John, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been a treat, a real honor.
Thank you, Ruth. It's been an honor and a treat for me too.
Isn't that fascinating to listen to John DeDakis talk about his series, his mystery, his like political thriller series, the Lark Chadwick mystery series. Oh, fascinating. And he has the most amazing life story, doesn't he? Starting off in journalism during one of the most tumultuous times in American history, and then switching over to CNN as an editor over there, and then finally trying his take at fiction writing. And did you hear? Even he struggled and had to keep overcoming obstacles and, rejection and everything. So if he had to go through that, we shouldn't be surprised that we have to go through it too, right? So I hope that you've been inspired by John's story and his amazing ability to craft these characters that readers care about and even tackle those hot button issues, right? Like politics. Who, boy, I admire him for doing that. Keep going on your writing journey, one step at a time, overcoming obstacles. Because like I always say, someone out there needs to read your story. Until next time, thanks for listening. God bless.